Hello, and welcome back to another Illustrating the Pokemon Trading Card Game video. Today we'll be taking a look at the classic deck Rain Dance featuring Pokemon Breeder, Squirtle, Blastoise, and Articuno. Can't believe we're already 5 episodes into this series, but after this one, I think I'm going to take a little break and try and switch it up with something a little bit different. We'll take a look at some other properties, other characters. There's lots of things to illustrate. So I'll give those a shot, and who knows, maybe this is something we return back to in the future. But for now, we're going to take a look at what I did right, what I did wrong, and what I would do if I were redoing this series of illustrations. This is the base set fossil version of Rain Dance. We're going to get started with our very first illustration for this set, and that will be our Pokemon Breeder. Now, as this series has evolved, I think my trainers have gotten a little bit better. This one's pretty good, except for the hand that's holding the rake. I lost a little dimension there in the palm for some reason. I'm not sure fully what happened. It looks like I did adjust the size in the inks, and that was good, so it matches the hand holding the bucket a little bit more. But the hands in this one are not my favorite. But I think the proportions and the facial expression work well. It reminds you of the original card, but isn't a direct copy of it. So I really like that. Everything in this one is a little bit green and teal tinted. And green, teal, and brown ended up being a surprisingly good color combination. I really like how that worked for this trainer overall. In terms of the trainers I've done, I don't know if I quite like it as much as I liked my Bill illustration. The oak was okay, had a few problems, but on the whole, as far as trainers have gone, I think this one is pretty good, and I'm getting a little bit better at those. Up next, we're going to take a look at Squirtle. Super easy to draw. I've drawn Squirtle I don't even know how many times. I kind of like this pose. I think it's okay. I could have probably pushed the dynamism a little bit more, but you can see me in scale there kind of comparing it to the Blastoise, but on the whole, I think it's pretty successful. I really wanted the Squirtle to be very cyan. I tried to really go after some shadows in this image. I thought that would help give it some dimension. And looking at this again, I think it provides pretty good dimension on the shell, but there's just a little too much shadowing going on the face in a way that doesn't really add to any dimension. It actually still kind of looks flat. It's got kind of a crescent moon shape there with too much shadow, so that's definitely something I would adjust next time, but for sure like the cyan, always like that. Up next we have Blastoise, and I think this video sketch is a little bit longer. You can see this first pose is not ultimately what I end up going with. I tried to sketch in Procreate, and that's just something I'm not super comfortable with yet, so I ended up going back to pen and paper, taking a picture, and then inking over the top of that, and I think it's a little bit better. There was a certain energy and posture to the one that was sketched digitally, but I find digitally I'm not super happy with my proportions yet, so maybe that's just the size of my screen and what I'm comfortable drawing with traditionally dimension-wise, but that's something I'll continue to work on moving forward. But in terms of the final Blastoise we've got here, I think it's pretty good. The color range is really nice. Blue, yellow, and brown is pretty effective, and the purple shadows really add to that. The purple went over the yellow, the blue, the gray, and the brown nicely. Looking closer at this, the green in the eye, could this be a little more saturated? Potentially. It might just need a higher value. The white from the highlight isn't coming through either, and I can't tell which one of those things is distracting for me, but I would probably emphasize that a little bit more if I were to do this one. Again, I think the shell's pretty good. It's got a unique shell design, and I really like that. Last and certainly not least is our Articuno here. I find drawing birds to be particularly challenging. I don't traditionally care for the flying type Pokemon, and I don't fully understand their anatomy as much as I would like for how I'm trying to stylize them here. But I think on the whole you get this idea of an Articuno that's in a consistent style with the other things that I've made. So Pokemon scales are all over the place. The actual, I'm looking up some of the heights of stuff, and re- perfectly proportioned based on their entry listings is just not possible. I mean, I guess it's possible, but it didn't seem feasible for what I was going for. So, all in all, given my knowledge of the flying types, I'm pretty happy with this one. I think the colors are really, really nice. I probably would have softened I don't know if it's Articuno's beard or kind of that frost diamond pattern, whatever that tuft of fur is. I probably would have softened the transition into the blue there. You could see in the original illustration, it is a pretty harsh transition, but I think I would have liked a little bit more of a gradient switching between those two values. I think that would have made it a little bit more effective overall. I love how the tail feels very icy, and while that's saturated, you just get some deep, rich colors from the blue violet inside the actual feathers and things like that. So here's the set of everything together. I think this works really well. I found a nice little beach background image and filterized that for everything. And all in all, I think we've got a pretty effective set here. The Blastoise is probably my favorite. The trainer's pretty good. The Squirtle, I wish I'd done a little bit more with, but I think it works for what we've got going here. I like how I've got three, I guess they'd be water type cards. I don't think they're all water type Pokemon, but you've got three different blues here. You got very cyan, you've got very icy, and then you've got very blue violet, and I think that works well. So you've got kind of a cerulean cyan blue violet thing going on. And that contrast for something that just could have been everything stays light blue, I think makes for a nice range in the image overall. But that's going to do it for this episode. Again, we're going to take a little break from illustrating these classic decks and see what else we have in store. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.